First thing I want to say is that I changed the title of my presentation. I changed it to Business-Actualization with Windows Azure. And I did that because I'm the CEO and I can, so I figured, what the heck. What I wanted to do in this presentation is that we've got a big mix of people here, and we've got business owners, and we've got people that are IT professionals, and we need a good mix because I really want to talk to the business owners out there. You know, I'm a software engineer by trade, okay? So I'm a techie guy. I've worked on networks. I have written lots of code for a variety of systems, but now I'm a business owner. So I'm a software engineer that's learned how to run a business. And so I kind of feel like I can talk to both things. And one of the things I want to remind my techie friends in here, my IT folks, is that a central message, and please understand where I'm going with this. So I've got a good friend of mine, Brian Braden, and Brian and I met in college at Troy State University, and we were at a party one night, and we ended up having a lifelong friendship. I'm the godfather to his children. And Brian went on after ROTC. We were both in ROTC together, and he went on to serve 22 years in the United States Air Force. And I went to his retirement. And he talked about being self-actualized. And it was the central theme of his retirement. And you know, if you don't know anything about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but it's the final level of psychological development that can be achieved when all basic mental needs are fulfilled and actualization of the full personal potential takes place. And so Brian kind of talked about how his career went, and he talked about flying into Bosnia. And when he came back, he got off the airplane after his first mission, and they went out and they rescued somebody. He was in combat search and rescue. And he said he felt self-actualized, but he really didn't know what that meant. And over the journey of his career, he came back and he said, listen, he said, what I'm really self-actualized about is my family. The realization that my family and the people around me are important. So I took that and I started to think about business. And this is my axiom to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and that's the pinnacle of business development can be achieved when your business when focused on what's truly important, can actualize its true potential, its true purpose, and realize its full potential. So where we really want to get to is here. And what I want to say about that, and this is for all my IT folks in the room, that business does not exist for IT, that rather IT exists to facilitate the business. And we really need to think about that. So I want you all to do me a favor. Peter Drucker once said that a business enterprise has two basic functions, marketing and innovation. So what's the purpose of your business? I want everybody to close your eyes. Think for a second. Why does your business exist? Why do you do what you do? Think about it. How many of you got into business saying, I want to be in business so I could own a computer, I could own a computer network, or I could own computer software? Raise your hand. Anybody? How many corporations today exist because they wanted an IT shop? Anybody? Okay. You can open your eyes. So what's really happened now is that IT is becoming consumerized. Consumerized technologies, infrastructure, and applications can deliver dramatically lower costs. Over time, most comprehensive private IT enterprises will become a luxury that even the biggest organizations can't afford. Enter the cloud. So what is this cloud? What does it mean? Well, I like to start with a definition, and I like to set up what is the cloud and why do you want to pay attention to it? So the cloud has an evolutionary meaning. John McCarthy, back in the 1960s, he said that computing may one day exist as a public utility. Now, for those of you that have been in IT for a little while, you know that at one point we talked about networks as a cloud. We talked about the internet more recently as a cloud. If those of you that are in programming know that we have the Booch method where we represented instantiated objects as a cloud. But today, cloud computing has taken on a different meaning. We've got the widespread adoption of virtualization and service-oriented architectures. And we now have autonomic and utility computing. So the details of all of this are abstracted from the end user. We basically have commodity and utility-based computing. So my definition is that the cloud computing is a transformation of computer hardware, software, and networks into a utility like your electric company, water company, or gas company. Now, it's not this electric company. It's actually this one, or like your gas or your water. So when we define the cloud, what does it mean when we're talking about the cloud? Because all the vendors out there are all talking about different types of cloud. What does that mean? What is cloud? Okay. So the first thing is that cloud's on demand. When you turn on your lights in your house, do you call up your electric company and say, hey, provision me another several watts of electricity so that I can turn on my lights? Do you do that? Anybody? Raise your hand, because I'd like to know. But isn't that what we do every day when we go talk to IT? We say, hey, we've got a big sale coming on in our e-commerce shop. I need some more server power. Either they have the capacity or they've got to go out and they've got to go buy it. They've got to buy new servers, capital expenses. A cloud is scalable and has rapid elasticity. See, I've got props. Nobody else had props, so I've got props here. You know, what's the characteristic of this rubber band? What happens with it? When we pull it out, what does it do? Right. But what does it also do? It contracts. So the same thing for your IT. When you have your IT, you have a base set of servers usually, but you have those times when you need to expand. Do you realize that 60% of most of the computer resources out there aren't even used? They're sitting out there. How many people remember SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Life? How many remember that? Well, they used to have a little utility that you could download to your PC, and you put it on there so that at night all the computations could happen, okay? Because all those computers are sitting around being unused. Just leave your computer on, right? Multi-tenant. Now, for our folks there in the public space, just because it's multi-tenant doesn't mean that everybody is on or has access to your data. I want to make that a clear point, that once you have your data up there, it is separated and it is segregated. That doesn't mean that Joe Blow can come in and access Sean's criminal record. He doesn't have one, but if he had one, they can't access it.
Well, none of them are named Sean anyway.
Yes, that's true. That's S-H-A-W-N, and that was you that had the criminal record, right, Sean? Okay. Self-service. Again, if I want it, I just ask for it, okay? I just go in my little portal and I turn it on, just like my electricity. The simple fact of turning on that light gives me that instant access to the electricity. With a cloud, I need that instant access to my computing resources, whether it be compute cycles that I need because my e-commerce store is about to have a big sale, or whether I've got the Store Simple device and I don't want to keep buying disk drives and sticking them out there in my NAS device and growing. I just put on the Store Simple device and it tears it out to the cloud, and the cloud grows. Reliability. Well, I put out a blog article that talked about the cloud failure that happened on Windows Azure. Every major cloud vendor has had a failure, but they're getting better. To some extent, this is an emerging technology, and it's changing, and it's rapidly changing. But I'm here to tell you that it is changing the way we do computing. This is a game-changing paradigm. You don't have to take my word for it. Lastly, and I'm going to show you why here in a second, so got lots of good statistics. That's the engineer in me. The engineer in me says, hey, I got to put some more statistics out there so you guys can understand what I'm talking about. I try to keep it high level, but every once in a while I got to drop down to my engineer in me. So, no, I could do that for you, Kevin, if you'd like. The last part is it's utility-based subscription. We pay for what we use, and only what we use and when we need it. Now, I'm sure, how many of you guys have an EA? A few people have an EA, okay? I know we asked that question earlier. Just like a factory that wants to buy electricity, if they step out there and they say, hey, I'm going to buy a bunch of electricity from your electric company, they sell it to them at a discount. Well, that's what an EA does for you. You say, hey, I'm going to pre-buy some stuff from you, and I'm going to give you a discount. So that's what you do when you have an EA. All right? Now, does that mean that your pay-as-you-go goes away? No. That means that the next time, let's say you buy $25,000 worth of compute or Azure services, all right? That means that when you need another $5,000 worth, that you get at that same discount, okay? Because you are guaranteeing a certain level of consumption, all right? You can always go pay-as-you-go, pay market rates, and I'm telling you, it is coming down. I have seen in the last 3 months, 3 drops in rates in terms of cloud storage, cloud compute, and access. So this is changing. Let's talk about what is the cloud, all right? And we've talked about it, and we need to talk about what are the service models. Now, I kind of throw this up here so you can see this, and I'm going to drop down into the service models a little bit later so you understand them. But the deployment models are you have a public cloud, a private cloud, and a hybrid cloud. Well, let me think here. A public cloud means that instead of getting a hostel when you're over in Europe, you get a private hostel that's yours, but maybe somebody else has their own private little bedroom next door. Okay, that's the public cloud. Okay, and a private cloud is I built my own area over here, and I built my own little hostel, and I've got to maintain it and keep it up to date. All right, and I've got to constantly do the maintenance on it. And then a hybrid cloud is where I utilize my hostel or my hotel, whatever you want to call it, and I have my own private one, and I have the public one, and I share use between the two. Make sense? All right. Why the cloud? How many people are familiar with Gartner? Okay. Well, we talk about the hype cycle, right? The hype cycle is that we have some kind of a technology trigger that comes in. And that technology trigger comes in and everybody gets all excited. And everybody gets excited. And everybody's talking cloud and they're throwing out all these buzzwords. Pat, tell me a buzzword.
I'll go back to Sean's slide and say
ACK. How many of you know what ACK is? Anybody? No. Heck, I don't have any idea. Anyways, what happens is everybody gets all excited about a particular technology when this technology trigger happens. And everybody talks about the election. We got all the talking heads up there talking about what's going on in the election. Well, in the technology community, we have that as well. And they all got a lot of opinions, just like the talking heads, okay? But nobody really knows what the actual outcome is. They're not clairvoyant. Okay, and they're just like the talking heads up there. But they do have some reputable ones like Gartner. So what happens is they start talking about it, and businesses look at it, and they come up to this peak of inflated expectations about the technology. Man, it's the silver bullet. I don't know. How many people have been in IT more than 10 years? Anybody more than 20? Okay, how many silver bullets have you seen in IT that says it's going to cure all our woes? Everybody remember when you did client-server applications? And they came out and they said, oh my gosh, the browser is going to solve all of the application development woes. What happened? I have to tell you, as an application developer, I hate browser-based applications. Why? Because I want to have responsiveness just like I do in my client-server applications. Everybody said it was a game-changing paradigm.